Your voice is calling me, but it seems so far away. Every word you ever said, every feeling that you gave. Why did you let go? Cause I know that this is hard, but it makes me feel so down. Can we turn it all around? Pulling me to the ground, tears streaming down my face. My chest hurts, I can't escape. There's no going back now. Will you miss me when I'm gone? Will you think of me when you're all alone?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great.
I haven't got a picture up yet, but I'm not expecting much of a picture just because, yeah, I know what you're doing with all the cameras and things, complicated stuff. Ah, okay. Yeah, down.
Driving around town, doing a lot of usual stuff, but there was a cow looking like it was using tall wooden legs that appeared from time to time to say, like, yeah, I know you can do it. You have my trust. When I was little, I had a tree outside my bedroom window, and the moonlight spread its shadow across my ceiling. Sometimes when I woke up in my groggy state, it looked like spider webs. Probably. It's hard to tell. But that doesn't mean that you should stop dreaming. The feeling I get from this is waking up in the middle of the night from a nightmare that you thought was real but really isn't. These dreams are weird. You pick up your phone and no one is there. And for a while I was really scared of them. Like, it's definitely something that doesn't happen every day. But once I knew what was going on and why it was happening, it made a lot more sense, and I became okay with it.
Okay, this should go like this. Hi everybody, nice seeing you. Welcome everybody to the stream. This will be a fun stream. First for me, definitely. Two firsts for me. One will be trying to do a project live, and yeah, I'm not a bit loony or I don't know who does the daily or weekly streams with doing projects live. So that will be fun part. Especially since this is not my project. And of course the second first for me is having a guest on stream, and the guest on stream will be inventor or author of the board who will be judging my just kidding, who will be helping me and guiding me if I run into any issues, and we will be talking about his project. Okay, let me just, so first, as always, I would like to start with thanks for everybody who was able to join the stream, and I will shortly go through the new stuff in the Home Assistant, the release 2021.6 or June release of Home Assistant. There is a lot of stuff, but not all things are big or impact a lot of people, so I will briefly go through the list of the changes. Let me just switch the other screen. Hey, hi Johnny, hi Rasby.
Hello.
Once again, I have issue with the stream elements and the YouTube chat, and unfortunately, I have to switch screens to see what's going on in the chat. So let's start with the news with the Home Assistant. So first thing is the custom dark mode themes. The one thing that I really like about this change is now having the ability for authors to create a theme that contains both a light and dark version. So if you select dark version, for example, as your default, it will use the same theme as you selected it, as author created it, but convert it or use the darker version of the same theme. And this is really great, because previously, if you wanted to have light and dark theme, you had to download two themes, install two themes, and then switch between the themes. So that's really great addition. In terms of the attributes, now you have ability to toggle or collapse the attributes, which is also a nice thing. I have a lot of sensors. I don't know how many. I think I have, we can check later. Oh, let me see on this screen. I have 984 sensors in my production, let's call it like that, Home Assistant, and the ability, for example, to see below the graph what are the other values this sensor gives as attributes. It's really fantastic for me, because you know, a lot of sensors create one sensor but have 5, 6, 10 additional attributes. If you want to get the attributes, you can always get them for automations or the templates, but this is much easier to see. Next thing is time format, and I may be ignorant fool, but I always presume that this works. I don't know how I missed this, but yes, for example, I prefer 24-hour format over the 12-hour format. So the ability to customize this is really great addition to the Home Assistant. As I said, I don't know how or why I missed it, but I really did believe that I have it already. But to have the ability to select it now, it's much better. This one is, on the first, it doesn't look as a big change, but it can be big change, especially this line here, disable pooling. I've been talking with some of my YouTube members on the Discord in our channel there, and I've shown them graph from my network. So I have, as everybody has, router. Behind the router I have one main switch. This is power over Ethernet switch, providing power to the Wi-Fi network and the cameras, and my Synology as a server is connected to that. So this switch can be possible bottleneck if anything happens to it. So when I did video on the system monitoring with the Home Assistant, I was pointed to one other Docker container called, just a second, I'll find it here. Smoke Pink. Okay, so I installed Smoke Pink some time ago, and I have issue with the main switch that every 15 minutes it had spikes, really big spikes in terms of latency. So if normal latency is around 1 millisecond, on those spikes it would go to 150, 200 milliseconds. It would last for a minute or two, then it would drop back, and then after 15 minutes it would start once again. So the correlation between that problem I had and this disabling pulling intervals is a speed test. Speed test was, and you do have a warning in the integration, so speed test is really network hungry, meaning that it will take all the resources it can get, of course, to give you the maximum values your network supports or your internet connection supports. And as this was on my main switch, it resulted in a latency on my main switch. Of course, it also means that my main switch is not that great. So this is the ability now to control what are the intervals on the updates, on the polling updates for each integration, and also the ability to, so when you set it up, it has default value. Later on, you will be able now to change it, and of course, you will also be able to disable it and then run update entity as a service to manually update when you need it, when you need to refresh the data, which is really, really great. Network Edition, I did join the release stream from the Home Assistant crew a couple of days ago, and I did listen to this part, and I'm still not sure for what this can be used, how this can be used, and what could this end up in the future. I did check up my configuration. Currently I have listed this as auto configure. It was detected, and I have some network port, which is really virtual port, since I'm running Home Assistant in a virtual machine, of course with the IP address and subnet, and it was detected. Okay, so what are the other changes? Modbus, I don't use it. Hue integration, which is great for anybody using Hue, to be able to use local push updates, which is something that, if I understand correctly, was implemented by the Philips couple of months or 6 months or maybe a year ago, to be able to control, to be able to have local responses on your network. So those updates are now local, meaning that you get results from the from the Hue much faster than you would before. So this is about replacing daytime zone handling in Home Assistant, because the last change had date change and this change had time change in itself. I've heard about this one, I didn't check it, so all services for all integrations now should have updated information for the service calls. This was job done by one person, and he really did have to look at the code for every integration and implement these by hand to every integration, which is really, really excellent work. Mouse. New color modes, Elgato, Z-Wave, JavaScript. Yeah, I didn't check. This was something that was done in version 2021.4 or 2021.5. I didn't play with this so far. Sonos fixes and improvements, controlling the state of the hardware button and controlling your Sonos alarms, which is, I would say, awesome, but I do not have Sonos. Name of the entity additional to the entity ID, which is definitely beneficial to in developer state tool. And search filtering now supports wildcard, which is also really great for searching, especially, as I said, I have, let me see, I have currently 1,800 entities, and finding something is issue. Recorder purge entities, that allows you to purge data from the record database for specific entities. This is awesome. I do have to play with my recorder because I think my backup of the So my snapshot of the Home Assistant is currently around 3 gigabytes, and if I would need to restore it, I wouldn't be able to restore it because I think there's a 2 gig limit on the upload of files or something like that. So I really have to play with the recorder and tweak it out a bit more. Watson text-to-speech has added a bunch of new voices. So unrelated to this, I was yesterday browsing through the analytics of Home Assistant, and I always look in those integrations list. I go from the last or the integrations that are not embedded or nobody's using. So there are a lot of integrations that have 0 users according to the Home Assistant analytics, and I was really surprised to see that Watson was very down on the list of the integrations that are used. I think that from the top of my head, only 10 or 15 people that do provide analytics, of course, for Home Assistant are using Watson text-to-speech. This is on my to-do list, but as I said multiple times, my to-do list for videos has around 50 or 60 titles there, and it's growing by the day. Because while I was searching yesterday on that list, I found that there is a Synology chat integration, and as most of you know, I'm using Synology to run my Home Assistant plus other stuff. And I think I will be doing video about that, but I've seen that only 2 or 3 or 4 people are using Synology chat as a notification platform for Home Assistant, which is in terms of how people are now looking at the privacy and ability to have private cloud systems and everything. If you already do have Synology, of course, having Synology chat would be a better option than, for example, using Telegram. And for what I'm seeing, if you want, you can integrate or allow webhooks inside the Synology chat, and that way you can create menus inside Synology chat to control your Home Assistant or do actions or whatever. Ding dong, added support for doorbell buttons to the HomeKit controller. BMW Connect Drive, unfortunately, nope, I didn't test this one. I do not have BMW. Now provides a bunch of sensors about your last trip. New feature that allows you to duplicate scene, which is great. I do like the ability in automations, and I don't remember if anywhere else. Scripts, maybe you have option to duplicate the script and then work from that script and modify it. But on the other hand, I'm using mostly text editor for all my automations and scripts, and I have to be honest, I only have one scene and I don't use it, but that's a different story, and maybe today we will change it with the Pithy Display and the ESPHome plus lights. It's on my to-do list also. A light template support for the effects, transitions, and a bunch more. I should definitely be using more those effects that are already embedded inside lights, Zigbee lights. So, for example, I'm using IKEA lights, and all of them have the ability to they have at least 4 or 5 effects: notification, warning, pairing. It's called something. They were mostly used for the pairing of the devices. So they created some kind of visual representation of where in the pairing process you are. So for example, blinking, yes; notification, no notification, things like that. But those can be very beneficial to implement together with various other verbal or mobile phone notifications. So for example, one of my next projects that I will be working will be the implementation of the Zigbee control board inside the intercom for the apartment, and I was thinking on how I would automate that. So if I would only use notification on the phone or text-to-speech on the speakers, but the additional thing would probably be to strobe lights, give like 3 or 4 short pulses of light to notify that there is a ring on the door, because I will definitely kill the buzzer. It's terrible. VSync supports electricity light bulbs, whatever. Sorry, don't know what's that. Universal Media Player now supports overriding a lot of commands. I haven't checked that out still. I do use Media Player, I wouldn't say a lot, but I do use it through some of my automations and scripts. Smart Tab integration, service to change filtration settings. If anybody wants to send me Smart Tab to test, I would gladly test if it's working or not. Elgato now supports Elgato light strips. Yeah, I do not have Elgato LED strips. I do have Elgato, how it's called, key light, light, this one, and it's really working great with Home Assistant. I did a video on that, and it's funny how you can. I do not know normal people who use this light for the fun. Usually people use it only for the streaming and recording. So as I said, I do not know if anybody will go out and buy this light, but on the other hand, Elgato LED strips you can use for anything. I think they are a bit pricey, but they are really good. Most of their stuff is really good. My green screen, which you cannot see, it's not shown on camera. My light, Stream Deck, they are all Elgato, and they really are excellent. Oracle DB, which is fun. If you're into Oracle DB, you can use it now for the recorder. Yeah, nope, not me, definitely. I still owe a lot of people recording of the InfluxDB updates to the latest version, and I didn't do it to myself already yet, and I also need to do Maria DB for the Home Assistant. Z-Wave JavaScript integration shows progress when adding or interviewing with device. I cannot test it, unfortunately. I do not have any Z-Wave device. Next integration now supports controlling American Standard thermostat. Great. Channels, support for changing channels on LG Netcast TV, which is great. And UX for counters and number helpers looks nice, which is great. These are some of the new integrations. I did implement Kraken, and I'm not happy with it. I'm not into investing in anything. I do have storage node, and I do have some Ethereum token from Storj, and I use Kraken myself personally when I was buying or selling Storj. So I thought it was really great idea to implement Kraken and to be able to see the statistics about the value of either cryptocurrency or token compared to US dollars or euro. But unfortunately, the implementation is pretty simple, but unfortunately it's not working as it should. I'm only pulling one value for one pair. And I have two pairs. I have Ethereum to US dollars and Storj to US dollars, and I can only see value for latest buy for one of those cryptocurrencies. So yeah, it's not working as it should. Bosch Smart Home controller, that's something I don't know. Amsterdam garages is really great. I really envy people who live in cities that have such possibility to be able to implement integration inside Home Assistant and to be able to tell you what is are there any empty spaces for the short-term or long-term parking and in what areas, which is really great if you're planning to go somewhere and leave your car. But unfortunately, yeah, no luck for me. Meteo-Climatic is, I think, one additional weather information. Air monitor, network configuration. SIA alarm systems is ability to pull the information from the alarm system. Unfortunately, still the push or changing of the status or triggering alarms and things like that, it's not still available. SyncThing is something that I'm also considering recording video. I will probably do Kraken video when it gets fixed, or if I manage to see how I can get more data from the integration. SyncThing is a good thing, especially I see it as a possibility to implement inside all of the people who are using Synology and run the Home Assistant in virtual machine, the ability to track synchronization between folders. So for example, if you want to be sure that your snapshots have been replicated and copied somewhere on a Synology, so that you have copying if in the event that the virtual drive fails or whatever happens to the virtual machine. So that can be a good thing to be able to monitor the status of the synchronization of files between two folders, but I think that you have to implement some additional tool for that. System Bridge and Wallbox I do not know nothing of. There are some new platforms, more integrations are available through the UI, and we already had 2 new updates, one on June 3rd and one on June 4th, but I didn't see anything here. I also didn't see anything in the comments that was resulting in some serious break between the versions. So I didn't see. There are a lot of, I think that there are a lot of breaking changes. A lot of integrations have been moved completely from the YAML, so you had to remove them. But I think in the last version you already received a lot of notifications about the warnings that the configuration in a YAML file will be removed in the next version, so you had time to do it. So these are all the integrations that are going to be deprecated from the YAML. So if you have any of those, and I think I do have, or I had Luftdaten, a speed test, not anymore, Synology, not anymore. Most of them have been moved to the UI at least 6 months or not, or even more. Okay, and this is it. So let me see, John, if you are still here, if you haven't fallen asleep.
I'm here.
Okay, just checking. Guys, can you hear John? Do I have to turn the volume up or something? And let me turn the camera on. Oh, just a second. Just a second. We did try everything and it worked, everything, but of course, that what worked doesn't mean it will work now. Window capture. I have to recreate. Add existing. Okay. No, it's not. Let me just resize this once again. It didn't save configuration from the last time. Hi, John. Nice seeing you here.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Just checking with the chat. Can you guys hear John? Okay, great. Great. I'll put up volume on my earphones. Is the background music maybe too loud?
We've lost your sound now, or I can't hear you anymore.
You can hear me.
Mr. Tinker.
Yeah, you can hear me. Can you hear me? Just a second. Oh, I love playing with the 65 channels. Let me see. It should be okay now. Okay. So, nice seeing you. Thanks for joining. So, let me tell you my side of the story. I like to hunt for the...
I'm not sure what's gone on there, but I can't hear you anymore.
You can't hear me. Now, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
I
Got
muted
you.
mic on this, so yeah, too many microphones and headsets and sounds. Sorry for that. Okay, so I wanted to tell my story. I told you that your project is the second project on the Kickstarter ever that I backed, and I really like to hunt for the ideas and small projects. When I'm talking small, I mean something not as huge as Philips Hue or whatever, but the something that somebody created and either did open source or he's selling a product or whatever, but trying to bring something new to the community that didn't exist and which really is a fun idea. So I wanted to back the project, and I was looking through the options and I was saying, oh my god. And one of my questions would be, why didn't you go with simply one for your sake, for one project or maybe two projects, but you made, I think, 3 of them, and 2 of them have options. So you have 6 million combinations of everything you had to do on your side, prepare variations of boards, add-ons, cases, documentation, code, and everything.
Yeah, that was just badly thought out. That's pretty much occupied my last 2 or 3 months, or probably longer than that now. What are we in June? Yeah, I hadn't thought it through properly, is the bottom line on that one. The 2 models that I did want, I wanted the screen version and I wanted the one with the NeoPixel ring, because I thought the NeoPixel ring's quite a nice way of displaying data without characters, without text or language. So they were the 2 that I had my heart kind of set on to some extent. Bad planning is the bottom line. The different variations, the different combinations, cases, the rest of it. Yeah, it's more work than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, the range that you can see there. So the range that we eventually launched on Kickstarter, the Pithy range, was actually the last of 3 ranges that I'd designed. I'd started off with a wall-mounted one to replace standard light switches, but that has complications in terms of how to get 5 volts DC into a wall to power a ESP32 or a ESP8266. The range that I probably like the most is the counter range, the one, I've got one right behind me here. I'm not sure if that comes up okay on camera, but something quite nice and pleasant to sit on a bench. That again has more manufacturing complications to it, not least my CNC machine works quite well, but the idea was to put it in the tinkering works in the arena to make it 3D printable, so people could theoretically print their own cases. And sure enough, the counter range as well, this version here is 3D printable too if you don't want the oak and aluminium. But for simplicity, I'd also designed the Pithy range just to be the simplest, most accessible one, the most appropriate for people who like a bit of soldering and the like. And that's the one that we eventually launched and successfully backed on Kickstarter. But it's been I think there's just way more to it than I had imagined. I thought just, designing these things, releasing it through the open source would be sufficient. But sourcing the parts has been a huge issue. And there's more parts go into these things than I thought feasible as well. So there's about 17 or 18 parts make up the different kits. Actually, I think it was a bit more than that. That was one of the issues, is that I underordered too. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience, but I'll put it that way.
I believe.
I'm not sure what else you want to know about
I know
how it's come about.
I know from my day job about the problems with logistics. I have the best PC in the world. It's not Macintosh, it's a Microsoft Surface, and I love it. It's really great PC, and I would never recommend anybody buying it. But since I already have it, it's okay. And a lot of my clients that are executives wants to buy either for the other executives or teams, working. It's a very lightweight computer. And currently there is a lead time of 4 months plus, meaning that if you order now, The only thing that you can be sure that you will not receive it in less than 4 months. When will be the end date, that nobody knows. And from the project side, for the last 2 months I was trying to build to use the JLC PCB's assembly service for the plant monitoring modules. Zigbee as a connectivity will be using Zigbee battery powered plant monitors, and they need 2 components. One of them is the Zigbee module, which is out of stock and has been for a while, and the other one is temperature and humidity sensor. So, and those are the parts that you cannot, at least I am not able to solder by hand. I do not have hot gun. I solder everything by hand, so nobody knows when they will be and if they will be in stock. And on the last stream somebody mentioned one board that was selling a month ago for $11, currently selling for $33, and the only reason I see for that is a specific BME 280 temperature, humidity and pressure sensor, which is out of stock everywhere. So the parts go really from the laptops, discs, home projects, everything is really delayed.
Yeah, that was one of the delays, was the JLC PCB assembly stuff. So the boards themselves, if it's just the Gerber files coming straight from the package that I use, which for years I've always used Eagle CAD, which is now under the Autodesk umbrella. That was fine for just the standard Gerber files when you didn't need any assembly done. As soon as I tried to get the little power boards, the little black one that you've got in the kit, for instance, that I just couldn't get the pick and place information to line up particularly well, and the sourcing of the parts as well. Basically, there's only 2 things on there: the micro USB port and the reset switch. But even that, just trying to link them up with JLC PCB assembly was that cost me pretty much 2 months going backwards and forwards with those guys. And in the end, I ended up just redesigning the power board on their online. Is it Easy ECD or something like that? The package that they use online. But as a knock-on consequence of that, I've also had to redesign the STL files for the cases because they no longer fit my original power board. Knock-on effect after knock-on effect. It's been a process where I've learned a lot, but it's not been a quick process at all. Oh, I can just see the overhead camera coming in.
Yeah,
there
this is the power board. I think you were talking.
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
I did go through.
So yeah, in the end, that was designed. Yeah.
It is very hard. I don't know, but it really seems like the whole chain has been delayed in many areas. And you miss only one component here, but it creates backlog of really multitude of other projects. So idea for today is for me to try to assemble this, and I do have this one. I think that you were talking about this one, so I have just to cut and remove second row here, if I'm not mistaken. This goes for this humidity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hopefully that should work. I mean, all of the right-angled headers in the package are meant to be singles, but you should be able to make that work.
I had those packages that didn't receive the angled ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I do have this one, so this should be okay.
No, yes, you were one of the. Yes, you were one of those 12, unfortunately.
It shouldn't be. This is only 3 pins. But I do not need. Sorry, this goes
so the
here.
power board.
This is this one. So it's only 4 pins: Win, ground, SCL, SDA.
The power board itself gets a flying lead.
Has this one.
Yellow.
Yeah.
yellow, red, and black leads. Actually, the GST connector on the end is what we use to solder onto the power board. That's
Yeah,
the one.
this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm slightly late. I'm watching it on the screen here, and I'll get used to this.
Let me kill my camera, and I will open here your guides, because I believe that they should work great. I did go through them. I didn't solder anything. I do have additional boards to solder later on, but I think that this is a great project to show how it works in the end, and it should be really fast to assemble, program, and everything.
Yeah.
Let me just kill this. Move this one. A bit down. And go to here to guides. Just a second. Zita? Can you bring me glasses, please? I forgot my glasses. I cannot see anything without glasses anymore.
I know that feeling.
Thank you. Okay, so we are doing Pithy screen, and we will be doing photo assembly guide. Let's first go through the part list. So we have PCB here, D1, it's here, and it should be soldered, if I'm not mistaken, like this. From the images you also posted.
Yeah, that was yet another complication. Fortunately, they shouldn't have a knock-on effect to the backers themselves, but that board that you've got there is different to all the D1 minis that I used in testing, in as much as the USB ports on the other side. And I wasn't paying attention to the first few boards that I assembled with these, and I soldered, I think, 3 of them upside down before I actually woke up and realized what I was doing wrong. But there are slight variations with the D1 minis.
I have one board that I did. This is not your project. This is the other project I'm currently working. Not my project. This is from the GitHub also. But I hate desoldering or removing components, especially smaller ones. So this is the watering station for the plants that works on the Zigbee, meaning that there will be 3 pumps connected here, 3 lights, 3 manual switches, and a Zigbee module that receives data from other Zigbee receivers, for example, plant sensor, which I'm not having currently. And if the humidity of the soil drops below something, it starts the pump. These are really small pumps, they are 3 centimeters long. And when I was soldering the Zigbee module, it moved slightly. So everything is aligned here, but the pins are not aligned here. So I have to desolder the module and hopefully not burn it, because desoldering resistors and capacitors is one thing, and desoldering processors is definitely something else. Okay, so SHT temperature, this is this small module here. It should go on the board just something like next to this, so this somewhere here, if I'm not mistaken. It goes upright next to the switch.
It does indeed, yes, and it pokes through. So the black sensor actually points towards the rotary encoder.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, hopefully that's clear on the photo guides. Since uploading the photo guides, I've had a few more
so 2 right angle
photos, and I'm hoping,
switches.
yeah.
These are the
Yes,
2 switches like this. Let me just move. This is in the part. Okay. Rotary encoder and switch. That's this one. 4 8mm hexagon spacers. These are, if I'm not mistaken, going under the lid. They should be glued there, and then you use the screws to mount from the back side.
Bingo. Yes.
Okay, great. 4 times 8 millimeter M3 countersink bolts. Those are here. 2 times 5 millimeter round spacers. Those are smaller ones.
They're optional to an extent. I use them occasionally just to make sure that the screen's spaced correctly off the board. But to be honest, you don't necessarily need them. You can do that by hand fairly easily if you a little bit of dexterous soldering.
Okay.
If you hold the board as you're soldering, you can get the spacing. So anyway.
OLED screen, which is nicely packed and protected, which I really love. This is the one color.
You can't tell until you turn them on. That was one of the issues that I've got. So I've got 3 different ones. Yeah, okay. And I've just got to make sure I keep them very separated in their bags. I can't remember what color you opted for, to be honest.
No, I can't remember. But I do have a couple of those myself from other projects that are so I can play with the color. Because first I only thought that it's possible to buy white text only. Then I found you can buy blue text. Then I found you can buy multiple color LEDs screens where you can have 3 colors, I think, or something like that. USB Type.
Yeah, I've got some, yellow and blue ones are the third color option that I was offering for folk, which had quite a big take up. I was surprised how many people wanted the dual color, but what do I know?
It's great. Yeah, it's great. This is used when you want to have those devices plugged, for example, constantly in the wall to be both the controlling, displaying, but also the illuminance sensors, if I'm not mistaken. This would be the best option.
Yes, it's just giving people the option. Basically, the whole range was originally designed around that concept about having the USB port A, Type A port rather, going through the board at a right angle, so it would just push in as a unit. Most people, I think, on balance, chose the desk-mounted option anyway, so it's in there as a kit just in case people wanted to mess about with it. But the one problem when you do plug them in directly, it works fine when you're turning the rotary dial, but any kind of lateral forces directly against the plug puts quite a bit of strain on the solder. It works, but you're better off kind of having hold of it when you're pushing.
Okay. And micro USB board. This is the board we've shown. It also has the small switch here, which I'm afraid to touch not to break it. JST cable set. It goes somewhere. We will look at it later. And feet for the box. Plus, Edition also has the PIR sensor, which is the motion and illuminance sensor, if I'm not mistaken, plus 3 now pixels, plus JST cable set for the connection of the PIR sensor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, the PIR sensor doesn't do illuminance. It is literally just motion. It's a very basic. It's a very basic motion sensor. It works quite well up to about 3 meters or so, and it's got its own little microprocessor on there, so it controls its own auto or off. It doesn't give you loads of different triggers. It'll give you a short, I think 3 or 4 seconds after motion.
Okay, and now to the fun part. Let me just clean up the desk a bit. I did got bigger desk a couple of weeks ago, but it's still not enough for everything. I did print simple box, and the quality of the print is not excellent, but I do plan to use other color material. What is your recommendation on printing? I did try a couple of variations. One was to print them like this, meaning that this will be tilted when printing, and this one was printed like this, meaning that this is the flat area, but then the lines stop on this side, how it goes up. So there is a... Do you have any preference?
Yeah, there's. I don't think there's necessarily a sweet spot for this one. I print them as it would sit on the desk, so the base face down. But as you said, because especially on a 0.2 millimeter layer height, you will get ridging up the side of it where it mates with the faceplate, which is not perfect, but to be honest, it's fairly negligible. And if you do have a small file, you can really just straighten out those edges to make it sit really nice.
That's why I will not...
The other desk stand, the one that stands...
I will not be gluing this one. I will just be putting everything here and then reprinting in the other color, because the only color I had was the white, and this one printed this morning, finished printing this morning, and I was really afraid that it wouldn't be... I see problems here with the print, but yeah, for the assembly it will be great. The knob, though, is looking great. I printed it on a textured board, so it has a rough surface, which is really nice for the knob. Okay, fun part. Let me start my soldering iron and start looking at the steps. So first thing is to prepare the SHT31 sensor, and for that we have to solder the legs. And as I said, I only have legs that are 3x2 or 2x3, no, 3x2, so I have to clip the... If I will be able to do it, I hope I will be.
I would generally solder first. I generally, when I've done it, I'm not sure if there's a right and a wrong way to do this, but I've generally soldered it first and then clipped them after they're in place.
These ones are 3 pins and I need 4.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
So this is why I was trying to cut them first. Let me just see if I have... I think I do also have... Nope.
It doesn't help you any, but you were one of 12 people, the first recipients of the first batch of kits, where I had unfortunately forgotten to put the right numbers of headers in.
That's no problem.
That was remedied for all the lit.
I found normal normal ones that are angled, so that shouldn't be an issue. Problem is,
I can also see James on the live chat. He also got the short end of the stick on that one too. He didn't get headers.
No, but it gives me a reason to explain why I have so many pin headers here, just in case. And yeah, okay, I have these. Let me check. So according to the photo, it should be soldered like, nope, shorter side goes in.
Yes. That's just to do with the spacing. The 2.5 millimeter black plastic provides the perfect kind of spacing from the pins over to make sure it doesn't short out on the rotary encoder, because it gets very close.
Okay. Let me see if I can get more light here. Okay, that's a bit better. I forgot to go out and buy some putty for holding everything, which would be much better than doing it like this, but this will suffice.
I've generally done my whole assembly with just a rubber mat in front of me. I do use some what we call blue tech over here, modelling putty. I keep on referring to it in the guides. It is very handy stuff just to keep it in place when you flip the board over.
My kids probably have it in a room. There is a set of helping
Play-Doh
hands.
would work.
There is a set of helping hands, but unfortunately there is no room for it on the desk. I would normally do it with the stand and the magnifying glass, because as I said, I'm losing slowly my sight. But unfortunately, let me try and please put some more light here. Because adding light helps.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, my power cable for the soldering iron is broken somewhere, it seems. But it always happens. You know from experience that things like that always happen when you don't want it. Okay, heating up again. That's much better. Now I can see everything. Fix it like this. Okay, perfect, almost. So this is the SHT31. It has been prepared. Now it's time to do legs. I don't have that many legs because I do not have pixels.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a useful thing. To be honest, this makes the assembly process so much easier.
Yeah.
If I'd made, yeah, it's another place where I've made a rod for my own back on this one, because not on the 3 NeoPixels that come in the Plus kit aren't really supported in my software anyway. We've got another piece of software which I'll mention later, which also doesn't cater for them. So unless you're writing your own ESPHome or Tasmota code for them, we don't have any software ready to go that utilizes those anyway, and it makes the assembly process a lot longer. I know this because I've been doing tens of them recently, and it very much slows the whole process down.
So you are Tasmota guy. Do you like
No, I'm very. I used to be. I started out with Tasmota. I moved to ESPHome about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I haven't really looked back, to be honest. So it's a great piece of software too, but ESPHome does everything I need it to and more.
As a person who tried Tasmota and at the same time tried ESPHome, I instantly moved to ESPHome because for me it was much easier to read the code there than to try to guess what's going on in the background. But as I said, I really had zero knowledge in Tasmuta and zero knowledge in ESPHome. And I'm no programmer, but it was much easier for me to read what's going on inside the ESPHome than it was what Tasmuta was really doing.
Where ESPHome at the time had a killer feature that Tasmuta didn't for me, which was a direct API link into Home Assistant, which made interfacing all the software that I wrote at the time wouldn't have been possible with Tasmuta. That's not still the case. They have since added a direct API to Home Assistant, but to be honest, I haven't even tried it, to be honest. I'm very much on the ESPHome bandwagon now.
Look how fast this was. While we were talking, I managed to solder this. So this is the USB power board. This one is now prepared. The sensor here.
Nice and easy, that one.
Yep. I usually goof everything that is nice and easy, so I'm glad this passed. And it's also good that you don't see my camera probably with my faces. Okay, so I'm not doing this part, I can skip this part. Solder rotary encoder and right angle switches. And I kicked my microphone and I apologize for that. So if I'm not mistaken, it has 3 legs on one side, 2 legs on the other side, and yeah, it goes from this side. Yeah, you can't get it back to front, fortunately, on this one. The one thing that I would advise, I should maybe expand the text a little bit on the guide for this, is that it really does need to be seated flat. Now, sometimes when you flip it over, and I start by soldering the 2 anchors, it moves. So I generally just solder the 1 anchor, and then I reflow the solder when I've physically got hold of it in my hand, and make sure it's pushed flat. And once the solder hardens again, when I've got my hand on it, I know it's perfectly flat. And then you can do the other anchor and then the 5 pins. That's what I did here. I first soldered it temporarily and then pressed it firmly to align to have this angle on the. Yeah, I will also do that. I learned it the hard way when I was doing my first, let's call it, bigger project that I wanted to have my family approve, and this was the Dig Uno. Those are the digital control boards for the lights, and I managed to solder all the header pins at angle, so I couldn't put the ESP on board, I couldn't connect anything, everything was with about 20% angle on them. But this one was...
It's a learning process.
Yeah,
you learn the hard way.
Oh, I don't know if you have seen the couple of days ago there was a stream with the guy who created a vacuum pump for the SMD components. How it's called? Give me a second if I can find it here. It will be open source project. You will be able to buy the ready-made product, but I love projects when people put together different technologies. So for example, yes, you can do all the board and sell the board, but to be able to use your 3D printer to do the case, to be able to solder something, then to be able to put the code there, it really feels like you've done something with your hand. And me as a sales guy that doesn't do anything in his life really with his hands, it's really a great experience.
Yeah, it's what it's all about. That's just the different disciplines pulling it all together, forming one product.
This is Pixel Pump. I found it. I will post the link in the chat. Just give me a second. And I love really the idea. I used to love watching the video of that guy that's building his own version of pick and place machine. So yeah, you can go out and buy it. There are a lot of open source projects, but this I said, okay, there is open source project, but let me try and tweak everything there to get it to be cheaper, faster, better in optics, to recognize the objects, placing of the objects. So it's really great to see people do such things.
It is, and that's a complicated project rather, the pick and place machine.
Definitely. Share, copy. So this is the video to his, if anybody wants to see, pixel pump pick and place demo. Yeah, it's really fun. I would, this is something that I would probably buy and never use, because I do one project every couple of months that requires S&D components. But when you do have projects with S&D components, it's really hard with the tweezers to move it, position it, and having a hand pick and place machine is great. Okay, let me finish soldering this here. So 3 wires here. I now have magnifying glass. That's not positioned well. I can still see something. How did you come to the idea of doing devices that are tactile in terms of they have knob that you turn or press, and that have display? Did you see something? Did you miss something?
I missed it, that's it. I wanted something and I couldn't really find it. So I just wanted a way to interface with Home Assistant, especially for something like a thermostat or a light dimmer that was physical.
Okay.
I've got touch screens. You know, you can do it on the UI on screen, but I just wanted something physical. And at the time, I was still using Tasmotor at the time, so it was, at first, it wasn't a particularly fun project because it wasn't anywhere near as smart as I wanted it to be. It wasn't two-way communications due to the lack of the API. But that ESPHome changed all of that. As soon as I realized I could do that, it was just a ball that I ran with. But I designed it all because I wanted it in my own smart home. And after a while, I realized, well, hang on, other people might want this too.
They definitely do. I know from my side. I'm not electronics engineer, and I do understand a bit of how the components work, what are some parts of the logical parts of the boards, or the for example, what is logic level shifter, what is the purpose of the crystal for frequency, what do you give it, and things like that. But I myself have no knowledge about electronics above that. And there are so many things that I would definitely love to do, and I have idea also you would need like 20 of those projects to put them together, and you know, take piece of project here, take piece of project there, combine it into one project, and then try to do it. I was making my PCB, but I'm impatient, so it's really hard to do those things impatient, because you will miss something. You will you know, forget to take into account dimensions, for example 2.5 for between the pins on the headers and things like that, and you will miss something. And yeah, that's why I never did it at the end.
It's all just a learning process, and I don't think you need a background in electronics to put together some of these type of boards these days. One of the things that I've enjoyed about this process is getting rid of any passive components. So there is the only passive component space that's on there isn't needed. There's one resistor gap if you wanted to hook up a DHT22, which isn't part of the kit anyway, but it's there for expandability if anybody wants it. But everything else, so there's not even any pull-up resistors rather. Everything's done internally on the ESP.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There are all sorts of on the board that we're not going to be using today, but I've designed the boards to be a bit more flexible, so just in case somebody doesn't want to use it in the orientation that I designed the case around, there's flexibility there. there are even wings that I've designed, so extra switches that go on a separate board on the side, and it just plugs together. That's all for the future. And to be honest, after my experience with too many variables, I think that project might wait a little while.
I don't know if you follow or have seen, how is he called? I'm terrible with names. I apologize. I always forget names. Just a second. I watched his video this morning. Was it this morning?
What was he making? I might know.
That's that guy with the curly hair that has glasses that he made a smart glass. And he was making a smart watch, or it's not smart watch, it's a smart handheld, smart device tied to the hand. And
Right.
he made it modular, meaning that he created here it is. Zach Friedman. He calls him
I know the name.
Singulatron. He calls the device Singulatron or something like that. He created like a watch or device with a big screen that you put on your hand like this, and it has 5 slots. And over engineering part is that, for example, he did humidity sensor, a small laser, flashlight. For each of those things, he created separate PCB with the identification logic, meaning that when he attaches it to the unit itself knows what is attached and then reprograms itself to work with that device. So he created like big, ultra unnecessary device on your hand that can be 30 things, depends only on what module you connect to it, and you can have 5 modules connected.
Yeah, I love projects like that, the modular aspects of it. So there was a little bit of that in the design of this stuff too, but when it comes to trying to not sell it's not the right word, fulfill the pledges for the Kickstarter backer, for instance, I have very much learned to keep things simple. Offer them available modules as long as they know what they're doing, what they want, and what they're wanting to achieve with it. Then you give them resources. But trying to please everyone at once is difficult.
How was your experience with the shippings? This is a provocative question.
It's not fortunate. My mother, who lives close by and is fortunately retired, wanted a bit of a project, so she's very much taken over the picking and placing of all of this stuff. So putting it all in the bags and labeling it. And putting it all in the boxes. The actual postage threw up another hurdle that I hadn't really expected, which is in order to ship internationally. Certainly our customs and excise people over here wanted to know commodity codes for the contents, so fiberglass board, electronic components, make sure there's no lithium-ion batteries, that sort of thing. And so that took me about a week and a half just to find out the correct commodity code to label the customs with. After that, getting the printer for the labels, everything's been an interesting and useful learning process, but it's been quite a steep one at the same time, and not a quick one. I expected to have done. To have been where I am now about 2 or 3 months ago. It has been slow. At the same time, I work full time as well and have various other hobbies and other commitments. So it's not like I can just sit there all day and every day fulfilling Kickstarter backers as much as I'd like to do or should.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Unfortunately, I always say I have too much idea and not enough time.
We need a few more hours in the day.
Yeah, definitely.
24 is not enough.
So it's time to solder the sensor, and if I understood correctly, it should go like this so that the sensor points towards the button. Should it be a bit
Correct.
up or just flash to the board?
I set it up a little bit, so using the same technique that we mentioned with the rotary encoder, if you just do the one pin on the underside and get it tacked down, then physically hold it and you can pull the sensor back out a little bit just so it sits up a little bit higher than it would do usually.
So
that also gives you a little bit of play should it be a little bit encoder.
So something like this, to be almost pointing at the black black knob here. Oh, sorry, the black shaft.
That looks that right way.
Let me try do it. Just to warn everybody, sorry, I missed the chat completely. Charles, yeah, I do definitely also love the physical feedback of the knob, and that I bought myself a new keyboard, and at the time when I was buying it, I had much smaller desk. This one is 110, meaning 1 meter and 10 centimeters, which is small, but before I had 70 centimeters, and you really couldn't have two things at the desk standing with 70 centimeters, and I had a really large keyboard, so I bought this one, and I was looking for the loudest keyboard you can buy. So when you press the button, you hear every click of the keyboard. I love the sound. I grew up with the Cherry keyboards, and they have really specific sound. Yeah,
they do. Yeah, I've got my these days I'm happy with my little MacBook, and it's quite silent keys. But also, I used to type when I was coding for a living. I used to go long into the night, like 3 or 4 in the morning. And in my apartment in Spain, it used to just ring, every noise just amplified through the apartment. And so I couldn't get away with a mechanical keyboard. It would just be like cacophony of sound. Yeah, I know. Different strokes for different folks.
Definitely, because I know that I made mistake. But I do not want to admit, especially when my wife is listening, probably. Because when I do those how-to videos, for example, and I type commands, so I say, okay, now we will type following, and then you hear when the DaVinci is doing the grading or audio conditioning, it just amplifies even that, because it considers it as a speak sound, so it really sounds like machine gun or something like that. I will probably replace that, but don't tell my wife.
I know loads of people love mechanical keyboards. So there's Charles again. The old IBMs. That's the classic one, isn't it? The
I remember my father, who is probably maybe even on the stream now. Hi, Dad, if you're here. When they introduced PC, it was IBM. It was not IBM. It was I don't know what company that was. It was not Acer. Some Italian company. They bought IBM. It was called like IBM PC. They had XT and AT computers, and
the Olivetti.
It was not Olivetti. It's really something. Sounds like ASM, or it sounded like ASM, but it was I don't know. They don't exist anymore. But those are 8086 and 8026. 8086 and 80286s, and I love that's when I first started to play with the PC. It was around 80s, as Charles said, and I really loved the sound of them. And he did have Olivetti, but it was a typewriter at that time. Still using typewriters. So you get accustomed to the sound.
As well. Well, over here in the UK, we had a classic 80s computer, the BBC Micro, that didn't have quite the satisfying key click that the IBM compatibles did. but that was an iconic machine over here with its red F1 keys, F keys, and that was my first introduction to programming in the 80s. And I know pretty much everyone of my age remembers these beasts. And there's no processing power to them.
I know
what was inside them. 8206 maybe.
We were in a let's call it like that, maybe better part of the Eastern Bloc. So we were not considered East completely, but we were still not considered West, and we didn't have everything that you can have in the West. So we were somewhere in between in terms of the technologies, and we did have two computers that were similar to BBC micros at that time. They were called after the birds. One was the eagle and the other one was something like that. And they really, as you said, had no processing power. You could do 10 lines of something, and if you do a loop, it will probably crash.
Yeah, Charles in the comment there has just reminded me of one of the games of Chucky Egg from the 80s. That was one of the classic. And he said Elite, which I never played back then, you know, the space exploration one. But that was, I think, was on the, I'm not sure, BBC, an early IBM. But
I was ZX Spectrum. So you had plants, you had people on Commodore, you had people on Amiga, and you had people, well, Spectrum was dying at that time, but I was a Spectrum guy. And one of my favorite games was the Millennium on Amiga. I mean, I think that it was called Amiga 2000, and the game itself was called Millennium 2000. How they imagined that in the year 2000 the world will look and we will be all living in space and things like that. And I always adored when I went to my friends to be able to play that game, because yeah, I had Daley Thompson Decathlon, Manic Miner, and other games like that.
That's another classic one, yeah. Yeah. The Decathlon one, that was just crunching the keys as quickly as possible to run. I remember that one too.
It was at the time called the joystick killer, because if you would buy joystick, you would break it in one.
Left and right, as quick as possible. Yeah, games have come on quite a long way.
They did. They definitely did. Okay, so SHT sensor is down. We do not have to do NeoPixel, and now we have to solder D1 Mini, and we are close to being finished, and I'm really taking this slow. So it should go, if I'm not mistaken, something like, I do not see marks.
On the underside, you should have a rough outline of the D1 Mini, especially the cutout where the reset switch is.
Yeah,
you should be able to see the outline.
Like okay, let me get. Why didn't you do male-female headers so you can detach it? I know that this flattens the boards. It's less space.
Yeah, there is a reason for that, which is if you use the Type A USB plug and actually plug it straight into the wall, the height of the D1 is critical, so the actual case doesn't get too bulbous and you wouldn't be able to fit the USB into the USB socket.
Okay.
So it had to be low profile. I really wanted to put it on sockets just because I too hate the soldering things, and this is almost like there's not much room for error on this one, but as long as you get it sat so none of the pins from the underside are shorting out, which, especially since you're not using the NeoPixels, shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be too bad, but the consequence is that you've still got about 32 solder joints to do, 16, and then 16 to actually connect them to the headers themselves.
And let me do it
quick though. I mean, that's the thing. What?
If I'm not mistaken, there is a question. Hi Gonzalez, any reason to buy original Wemos D1 Mini over the copy ones cheaper on AliExpress? From the technical point, I'm not able to tell you. What I know from the practical point, that most of them did work the same as original, but from 10 or 15 boards, I usually had 1 or 2 dead on arrival. I wasn't able to program, something was wrong with the board. So, but on the other hand, if I look from the usability, I've decided to dedicate each of those boards to the project and not connect them with DuPont wires or anything. So, considering the price, I just buy them and have them in stock always. But I don't know if you have any other experience, maybe better experience with the original ones.
I had a few in testing and prototyping. I was using the proper official WeMOS ones, which weren't expensive anyway. But for the fulfillment of the backers, I had to order, I think, 400 of them. And after a lot of and ahhing, I decided to go with the cheaper AliExpress ones. So I think the one that you're soldering in there probably cost around £1.50, £2 or something. And I've not had any quality issues with them at all. So far, we're at 100%. So the thing is that the China economy thing is ordered subject anyway, because I would quite often encourage people to buy local if it's an option, but in these kind of quantities and this kind of design, it really isn't. And as long as they're not infringing any IP, which I don't believe they are, I think that it's an open source design. Personally, in this instance, I would be going for the AliExpress ones.
One question. Do I have to program the board before connecting it here, or?
Do you have to what, sorry?
Program the board.
No, you can program it in situ.
Let me just check if I can connect the cable, just to be sure. I did prepare everything.
Yeah. Yeah, Johnny in the comments pretty much just reinforced what you were in particular saying, that you might get a dodgy one every now and then, but generally the quality is pretty good.
Yeah, I really love the Quindors boards, and I have them 5 installed. I gave a couple away, and I have still at least 10 of those boards lying somewhere around the apartment, and I love it. I love them because I was able to do them myself. I could of course buy them. I'm not that cheap, and at the end, making them myself probably costs me more than it would cost me to order 1 or 2 boards from him. But it was really a nice practice of soldering and programming and understanding what the board itself is doing. And now I will definitely never connect wire wrong, or forget to set the voltage switch, because I know the voltage switch is there. I know what it does and why I should use it. And while I was talking, I moved the board a bit higher because the cable couldn't go in.
Yeah.
Yep, now it's connecting. Just disconnect it from the PC just to be sure to not short something out. Because
so then the other board, the boards where you actually populated the NeoPixel, the pins protrude on the underside, you need to space the D1 Mini a little bit off the black plastic headers, and I'm just talking maybe another millimeter or so, just to prevent any shorting. So that also takes care of the plugging in even the bigger micro USB plugs.
Okay. It's good thing that I remember to check it with only one leg soldered, because as I said, I can solder anything, even the SMD components down to 0603s or whatever is that, but I cannot desolder anything.
Yeah, I can't do that by hand. I don't have the patience, I don't think. About 12s are as small as I can go down by hand. But then again, if I'm designing a SMD board that I know I'm going to solder by hand, I just use the bigger components anyway. I'm rarely that short of space.
I do a lot of stuff which never ends up either as a project or video on my channel, because I like the idea. For example, yes, last year I started doing a Powerwall project, and I know that I will never ever have Powerwall because I live in an apartment. I cannot have solar panels. I cannot put batteries anywhere that would be regulatory safe or for me, because you have to have separate space that is protected, ventilated, blah blah, and I do not have that. But nevertheless, I did a project for DIY BMS, and I did everything, and there is option to install the external thermistors, and those external thermistors are 0.5s or 0.4, something that when it arrived I was just like looking at it and said, okay, no external thermistors for that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I would be really kind of nervous about anyway. Like, I've seen the DIY power walls where they've just soldered massive amounts of 18650s together, and unless that's in pretty much a bomb-proof metal enclosure, I personally wouldn't want it in my house or particularly close. I know that, like the Tesla power wall, do all sorts of testing and the rest of it. DIY packs of that size seems like a bad idea in my book. Interesting project, but
I built all the electronics for the Powerwall that can handle probably a smaller house, but I was planning to do something like 7S3P, something small that you can put almost in your pocket with the electronics for the Tesla car. But yeah, I never finished the project because unfortunately, I don't know how it's... I know that it's not the case in the UK, but here I'm not able to get salvaged or old laptop batteries. I don't know why, I don't know how. We work in an IT company, we do get some batteries back, but I never ever seem to be able to salvage any battery.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of shipping issues, I know, with anything, with certainly the lithium-ion, lithium polymer, and probably even back to the old NiCad days as well. You're dealing with volatile chemical mixtures, and I understand the why people don't want to ship it, especially if it's going on an aeroplane.
Well, people don't want
I
to
guess
ship
isn't shipping at that point. Yeah.
Even Amazon doesn't want to ship anything, but that's a different story. Johnny, I had the project of trying to find myself a desoldering pump, but I probably was too cheap. But on the other hand, I'm not doing that many projects, so spending too much on the desoldering pump is, well, it wasn't feasible. I did buy that fire hazard that can only be called fire hazard. This is a solder with a desoldering pump that has heater inside and desolderer, and it looks like $2 worth of fire protection in that device from China, and I didn't want even to plug it in the wall. Well, I did plug it in the wall. It started to smoke, which is also normal because they put grease to prevent oxidizing rust and everything, but I said no, and it's still sitting in a box that I will never ever try it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just old school with my desoldering pump, which is, well, I've got a few of them, but they're all that style. Actually, this one's losing its suction a little bit. But I've thought about getting a desoldering station a couple of times, but I don't have that. At the cost of some of these components, sometimes it's just cheaper throwing them out and starting again. I do have absolute bucket loads of all of these components now, just from all of my prototyping and the rest of it. And I've also, when you factor your time into it as well, sometimes it's wasteful, it doesn't feel good, but at the same time, You just sometimes need to get on with things. There is a great bit of advice though in the chat I've noticed, which is soldering to the dark side of the moon, which I think is pretty much as relaxing as life gets. Imagine.
Yeah, it does. I when I do videos, for example, I never do music because I don't know. Maybe I put something in my head which is not that important, but I thought that the sound, even the background music, would pull away people from what I'm trying to tell them in terms of how to do some follow steps, and that's why I didn't put any sound. So when I started streaming, I said, okay, in the streams definitely I'll try to have at least some ambient music. But funny thing is, I recorded for the Synology Croatia. For them, they asked me to record how-to tutorial in Croatian language, which was first time I ever did video in Croatian language, which is really strange because I live here, I talk here, work here, but I never ever did a single video on my channel or talked in a chat in Croatian language, and it just didn't feel natural. And the second thing, they said, okay, now put the background music. And it was like, do I have? Yes, you have to put the background music. But yeah.
Yeah. On a stream, I think I'm probably with you. This is very much in the comfort of my own home. I would generally, if I sit and assemble, I do generally just listen to music. But if I was on a stream, no, I think it would be a little bit off-putting. And getting the audio balance right and the rest of it, more headache than it's worth.
Power.
What are we up to now? The JST.
Yeah, JST connector. If I'm not mistaken, it should align properly with the dots or the holes in the board and the box, so this should probably be the proper orientation.
It'll look wrong if you've got it wrong.
Yeah, let me try. Yeah, it's out of the box then, or out of the box.
Perfect.
And the only thing left after that is the display. Wow, it really took me a long time, but we did chat a bit.
I'm a bad influence. I slow everyone down.
Nah. Just to warn everybody, I did prepare everything. I did prepare code, so it will be much faster in that part. Oh, we should also talk about the other option, but we will talk about that when I flash the firmware up. So this one is done. The power is done. This is done, and we now have to add the legs to the display board. Okay.
I said, but your choice if you want to do the 5mm spacers. Personally, I'd say I haven't been doing it in my assembly line of getting all of these done.
I will
same
not
project technique.
If needed, I will add them later.
Yeah.
As I said, I will keep this box for now. I will move it. So I think that I will not be adding, and later on we will see if it's needed. So it just goes like this, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I should replace the power for the soldering iron. It's not heating. It's funny, I don't know about you, but in the elementary school, I think it was right around 5th or 6th, no, 6th or 7th class, we had, it's called technical education, and we needed to do, we were educated to do a couple of tasks. One of them was soldering. We needed to know soldering, sewing with a needle, and cutting wood and things like that. But it's funny how I loved soldering then. Then my father bought me those electronic kits, you know, 2 LEDs that would flash red on and off and things like that. So that's the first time that I started to solder in a school. And now I look at my daughters. They are in the both elementary and high school. They are not allowed to cut wood because they could injure themselves. So you go out and buy the kit for education, for example, windmill, and you have panels of wood that you have to saw, cut, prepare, glue them together, put them together, and have working windmill. At the end, they can only glue it. Teachers do not allow them to use scalpel or saws, which is really
Okay.
It's terrible. It's
we had wood. We did a bit of sewing, including sewing machines, but we didn't actually do any soldering at my school. I don't think that's necessarily across the whole UK. It was probably just our school. But I remember I didn't enjoy sewing. That's pretty much all I remember of that. Woodwork was good fun. But our woodwork teacher was missing a few fingers, which was telling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's just like a very good lesson for the kids before you start with the machine. Just don't end up like me.
Yeah, definitely. Did you? Oh, sorry, Johnny, I just missed it. At the top of the line. Velar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, soldering station. Yeah, I used one of those years ago when I was working for 3M. Going back probably 20 years now. All of that was Weller desoldering stations with the proper extract hoods. They were fantastic things. That's the only time I've used a decent soldering pump. But my soldering iron is a £30 Antex thing. That's all I use these days. If I had a Weller station, I would love it and use it. I don't.
You just reminded me of the one of previous Zach's videos when he was testing the 3D printing filaments, and he really did go through 50 types, starting with PLA, then the PLA blades, composites, going all the way to some special materials, and coming to the ABS. You need people need enclosure because the fumes are toxic, but then again we can do it without enclosure. So no fume extraction here, no anything.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I'm a terrible influence. I probably even shouldn't say this on your stream, but I still use leaded solder to an extent without an extract fume. I often open my back door and try not to breathe in the fumes when I hold my breath when I'm soldering. I told you I'm a bad influence on people.
You will probably
don't
not
do what
see
I do
it here, but it's a lead, and I used less of my lead solder.
There's just some. I got used to leaded solder. The old stuff, the other stuff works. It seems to melt at a lower temperature as well.
I don't like the quality of the solder. I don't like how it's. How the joints look, the matte color. I'm not sure if it's soldered correctly or not. I'm just missing something.
Yeah, I think it's a brittle. When it settles, when it sets rather, I think it sets quite brittle as well. So I think you're probably more likely to get some dry joints with the non-leaded versions. But again, that might just be me talking nonsense.
They should look like this.
Thanks, Keith, in the comments. Says that explains a lot, I presume.
We all had toxic fumes. I remember the police academy, that guy that was sniffing the tear gas. So your recommendation is to put it a bit higher. Something like this. I mean,
ultimately, we're looking for spot on a 5mm gap as close as you can get. But I can, just with a little bit of practice, I basically push the bottom of the pins almost back out of the underside. So it's on tiptoes almost is the way that I look. And again, using the technique that we've discussed a few times, which is, you tack one leg in and then manipulate it with your people.
When is the last day of school in England, if you know? We have it in 2 weeks here in Croatia.
I think it'll be after that here. I think they normally go into July at least.
Oh, July.
But
yeah, we end at around 20th of June. But funny thing is, it's funny for me, but not for my daughter. She's a teenager. She's going in the second year of the high school, and she only has 2 weeks of the school left. And today it was 28 outside. Everybody is going outside because the curfews and everything are over. You can go drink in the bars and things like that. But out of 200 people that were tested positive yesterday, her classmate was one of them, and so they ended up in a self-isolation for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, fun time. It's a hell of a time to be a kid right now.
Definitely. I don't know what I would do if I would have to go through what they are going. Okay, so the display is on. So cable should go here. This board should go like this. Yeah, okay.
So you'll need to program it the first time. I'm not sure if, actually in my ESPHome program that you've downloaded automatically has the over-the-air updates on. But you'll obviously need to do the first flash via the USB port on the V1 Mini. After that,
let me kill the overhead camera.
Over the air.
And let me... Yeah, of course. The cable did break connection with the soldering iron at least 20 times during the stream, and I had to reheat it, but now I couldn't turn it off. Okay, I want to kill this camera. And
I'm fond of your weather.
Yeah, windy.com, I love it. It's even not showing the area where I live, but I really do love the graphs. They're so simple, and really just by watching you can see what's going on in the area. Rain, wind and everything. But let's go here. So I prepared this. And for everybody who's going to do anything with these boards in the future, really the steps here are great. You just have to go to it's not assembly, it's demos, Home Assistant with ESPHome. You select what you want to cover. Since I'm doing the Pithy display, I'm using this light control because it has been adapted for the display functionality. And you do need both this fonts folder copied, images folder copied, and your own YAML file. And inside that YAML file, the only things you don't have to do anything except customize the names here, light groups if you have group in the Home Assistant, and that's it. Everything else is pulled from the secrets file. So I had that previously, which is okay. So let me just jump back to my Home Assistant. For me it looks like this: ESPHome. Inside of it, where is it? Inside of it I had fonts folder with those 5 fonts. I have images, those are the PNG images, and this is the Loft Pithy screen, which says it has errors, but I do not believe there are errors. Let me just check here. It's nothing.
Mm.
Okay, so ESPHome, edit. Let me rename this living room screen. For me, it will be a loft. Loft, living room lights. No, let me look what I want to control. I always forget the name. There is definition for the group, light group. So it is looking at the group entity called living room lights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's by default.
Okay. Can
And
you
this
make?
is all set with my.
Can you call individual lights?
Should work. Yeah, if you just make that an individual light, it will just control the one light bulb.
Let me try to do
The
streamline.
caveat is
what
that
is the
Home
caveat?
Assistant refers to the color temperature,
Mhm.
and we're using the variable called color_temp, which is how Home Assistant pulls through the hue integration stuff.
Mhm.
If the IKEA lights are different, you might need to alter the code a little bit. But I
It's
haven't
not-
tested it
it's
with the
not.
IKEA lights, only the
Okay,
hue
okay.
stuff.
So alert timeout 30 seconds. I'm leaving this. As I said, Wi-Fi password, Wi-Fi SSID, OTA password, and ESPHome password are set in a secrets file, and this everything is left default, and we will not be going there. Let me validate it. Everything should be working fine. It is. And then I want to compile. Where's the cable?
So is this the version that is literally just the lighting controller?
Uh,
Because, well,
yes, we can do.
as they'll see if they go on different versions.
Yes, that's it. Let me just check. I did pull this one, lightning control. There is a lights and media combined. That one I didn't pull. I can pull also that.
Yeah, it's just this was very much written about. Again, I designed the device because I wanted to use in my home, and I wrote the software exactly the same thing. I wanted my device to control the media center. I wanted it to control the lights, and I wanted to control the thermostat. And you just scroll through the different pages to control the three different things. But if you don't use those three different things, it's pointless having it there. The media controller is quite nice, though. I do enjoy using that one. In fact, I use that for both my Sonos and my Apple TV.
I will try that. Oh, it's still not finished. I have to be expectations of my Synology.
I run all mine off a Raspberry Pi 4. It's not the quickest necessarily, but it does the job.
It will be
I
probably.
do run a SSD.
It will finish now. Yeah, that's a good question, Johnny. Unfortunately, both parents and teachers can be sometimes too overprotective of kids. And they will definitely never survive the zombie apocalypse.
Bottom question from Johnny, if that's referring to where you can get the Pithy devices. Right now, the shop isn't open because I'm still fulfilling Kickstarter backers. As soon as I've got that done, I'll be selling a few of them on the site at ioios.com. Sure, there'll be a link somewhere available.
I will post also a link here.
Yes. So that page that he's got up there will have a shop. I don't think it's there yet. It's a Squarespace site, and I have got the shop all set up, but I can't launch it until I've got the Kickstarter backers fulfilled. It just doesn't feel right to start selling them before they got their rewards. So hopefully within about a month or so, in fact less, I should have the Kickstarter done within 2 weeks now. I'm getting close, but it's been a long process.
Yeah.
Pricing approximately. If you want the kits as shown here without the NeoPixels, it should be between £15 to £18 for the kits. I think about 15 for the screen alone. The NeoPixels has really messed my pricing up because although it's open source design, I've used proper Adafruit designs entirely, and they come at a huge cost. Each individual NeoPixel has cost me about £1.50 each, so throwing 3 in a kit automatically adds £4.50 to a kit, and it's part of the pricing that I hadn't really anticipated, to be honest. I thought I'd be able to get them cheaper in bulk, and that doesn't seem to be the case. But as I was saying earlier, the NeoPixels, other than the ring, which we have got specialized software for, I've written. Milan Koronitsa is also working on his menu builder for the NeoPixel ring. The individual NeoPixels, I wouldn't like to call them a mistake, but I don't think they necessarily add a lot to the project. The rotary encoder and the screen is the heart of it, with the buttons.
I will be now flashing the boards, but unfortunately my ESPHome flasher crashed for some strange reason. Never seen that before, but
I don't actually use the flasher. I've always just used it plugged straight into the
you can plug
Raspberry
it.
Pi, so I use the.
I have to use the external flasher because it looks okay. Okay.
I have used ESP tool.py from the command line a few times just to flash it direct. But I think that's what this is. From the looks of it, that's all this. It's a front end for ESP2 tool.
Yep, it's working. Communication with SH3 failed.
Oh, so there's something wrong with the I2C bus there then. Is that the screen and the SHT not working? In which case, check what, if you have a look in the YAML, check what pin numbers we've got for the I2C data and I2C clock. There's a chance that that's wrong on the GitHub then.
Data and clock and D1 and D2.
I think it's meant to be 3 and 4. I don't. Yes, I'm pretty certain it's meant to be 3 and 4 these days. I'm not sure why that's out of date.
Okay, that's no
I'm
issue.
just it's written on the board.
So
on the board
they-
itself, it tells you what pin numbers. Yeah, clock should be D3, data should be D4. So it's on the
Clock D3, data D4, and the PR should be D1 and D2. So I'll move PR to
So-
D1, 3.
I'm not sure why that's out of date.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, 4. Okay, we'll
It's
upload.
wrong on the GitHub.
A tree outside my bedroom window, and the moonlight spread its shadow across my ceiling. Sometimes when I woke up in a groggy state, it looked like spiderwebs.
The other thing to note that took me a while to realise what was going on, but this side button here, the TX, what I refer to as the secret button inside the case, that uses the TX pin, the transmit pin, which means that the USB logger stops functioning.
Yeah, I know.
So you can't. It works fine over Wi-Fi, but yeah, I think it works fine over Wi-Fi. That might be a lie, actually.
Okay, it's rebooting.
Everything's gonna be okay.
I usually also set the IP address and all the network settings, but it should work without it. Yeah, it's nope. Again, communication with them. Just a second. Let me see here. Scanning. No bus devices. No I2 devices found.
But that doesn't mean that you should stop dreaming. The feeling I get from this is waking up in the middle of the night from a nightmare that you thought was real but really isn't. These dreams are weird. Pick up your phone.
Some of
Keith,
the connectors.
For a while,
the PIR is not used in this one. Keith just answering that question. He's just using the standard screen without PIR or
why it was happening,
without the neopixels.
it made a lot more sense and I became okay with it.
I can't quite see the text on my little iPad screen here, but yeah, I would just,
So
if you've got it as I2C, clock as D.
Clock is D3, data is D4. Clock is D3, data is D4. Let me just check once again.
Clock 3.
Clock 3. Haha, clock. Okay. Clock D3. Let me put it like this.
And for anybody that's following along, I'll update this on the GitHub, so you won't have to mess about with this. I'm not sure, that's out of date. An earlier prototype, I had to swap a few of the pins around because, well, long story, to do with pull-ups and pull-downs, internals. The final pins seem to work well. The ones marked on the board is correct.
Come on.
I'm confident now.
It's alive.
I shouldn't say this.
It's good. It's good that it's the
So-
every next change of the code. If you do not add library, doesn't really add anything to the compile time. Everything is ready already, so it's very fast. And it should not give error.
Good tip there from James in the comments about checking for shorts on the SHT. That's the voice of experience. I know that James has been through. I should point out that two other people in the chat, James and Keith, have been my little testing group. So they've had these devices for probably 6 months or so now. and they've been through the ringer with me on a few of these.
Yes, you may be right, but not in terms of the short of the solder, but I think that the contacts of the I'll show you. But it's working now.
So
No errors.
yeah, the SHT is working. I can see temperature and humidity. So the I2C bus is up and running for sure. Have you got anything on the screen?
Yes, I do. Let me turn. I promise I will get next time better camera for this overhead. This one. Come on. Okay. It's flickering. Give me a second to change the. To try to
just
change the
camera.
rate.
As often when I was taking the photographs to do the Kickstarter back, I was having problems with this as well.
Yeah.
It's-
Let me try this. Save. Nope.
yeah, it looks fine. It's just cameras don't like it much.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the best frequency, but unfortunately I cannot. So if I turn the wheel, currently it's not doing anything, but it's also not. Let me just. No, it's just.
Check the pins again. So if the I2C clock and data were wrong in the GitHub file, the encoder might well be too. It's worth checking in the YAML, and I'll get that fixed on the GitHub.
Okay.
ASAP.
So encoder pin A. Encoder.
And then it should be
A,
D5, D6.
D5
and then
and
seven.
D6 switch is D7. Yeah, it is. Side switch is TX. This one. I don't know if anybody can see, unfortunately, the flickering. Let me try to. It's better here, definitely. Okay. Let me close this screen.
Oh yeah, that's a much better shot of a different camera, right?
Yeah. I'll have to
Doesn't
check
seem to go
code
past.
also.
Ah, there you go. Brings the screen up eventually.
I don't see, but it is working. And you said that in the logs you did see information about the. Let me look at here. Configuration, integrations,
See the changing.
submit, and we will now see it here. We can also see in the. Okay, let me remember what was the password. Yep. It's living room here. One device, 5 entities.
Bit of advice coming in from Charles here to pick yourself up the Stream Deck app for changing streaming scenes or the physical little devices. That's one for you. I don't really know what he's talking about. I've heard of Stream Deck, but
That one. The problem is that I thought that 15 buttons would never be used completely, and now I just have too many of those scenes to be able to find anything that I want to find. So yeah. So I end up going back to the OBS for that. By the way, I also plan to use this for streaming to be able to control the Elgato keylight with it. Although I can do it also here. Whoa, sorry. I can do it also here, but it would be also awesome to have it here and to probably have a text on it. Okay, I will not be going now into adding additional things into Home Assistant. I will be playing with this a bit more. I will definitely make a separate video on the other board I will be making. I just want to close this up for now because we have been already 2 hours in the stream and yeah, it's getting too long. Let me change...
The only in conclusion is just the alternative software. So say what you've been messed about with there is what I wrote. A guy, Milan Korenica, based out of Bratislava, so not a million miles away from you there, has written a tremendous menu building system where you basically you design multi-level systems, adding what you want, so it's fully customizable. You know, he's got demos where he's controlling blinds and volume displays. On GitHub, he's at Mikosoft83. That's Mikosoft 83. But I'm sure I can post a link there. There we go. You're miles ahead of me. There you go. Post it in the description, and that's a tremendous project. So yeah, there are options, and of course, write your own. If you like your ESPHome, or if you're familiar with Tasmotor, you can even use the Arduino IDE. It is just an Arduino with a Wi-Fi stack on it. So there are loads of ways to write stuff for these devices. You don't have to use. You're not limited to my code.
Okay, let me just connect this. I will not be completely closing it up. As I said, I will be printing a new box for this one, but let me just temporarily add a button here. Please, everybody, don't mind that it's not permanently fixed, because I will not be adding screws here, or because I will be changing the case. But you also have option of printing various other cases for it if you do not order it with the case already. Let me just see.
There's one in grey as well.
Yeah.
It's not plugged in, but grey with a brown black thing.
Let me just see what I can unhook here. I never have enough USB ports. Let's see if this can be, if this is long enough. So
I want to get a green screen now. I just want my background to disappear. I'm quite jealous.
Yeah, I bought a green screen from China for, I don't know, $15-20, and it's really worth $15-20. And after 1 year, even I only use it. I previously only used it for streams, and I had streams maximum once a month. So it was once a month. I had to pull everything out, set everything, then put it back in. But recently I started recording my not so pretty face in videos, and I started to use it a lot more. And this one costs 6 times more than the Chinese one, but it's worth 20 times more. It's small, it's pull-up version, meaning it's just a tube. You pull it up, you have perfectly straight green screen. With those Chinese, they are all usually fabrics that you can never stretch enough to get it perfectly straight, and then you have shadows and holes. But also I have to say that it's because we are using black screen. If I want to change to something lighter, you may start to see discoloring and things like that, but it's perfect. This was one of those purchases I made which I really do not regret spending 130 or 160 euros. Yeah.
Money well spent.
Oh, I'm really neglecting chat today. Motorized
Yeah, that
one
overhead
person
camera
said-
really doesn't.
Yeah, that would be. I really envy everybody who has dedicated space for projects. This desk here was not intended to have even PC when I started. Now it has 2 monitors, lights, keyboards, and everything.
No, my camera doesn't mind the screen too much.
Yeah, yours doesn't. When I changed the camera, yeah, my button fell out because it's not. I will cheat. Overhead camera. Yeah, this one is the normal webcam. Unfortunately, 720p maximum. I think it is 30 frames per second. This one is also Logitech, but this one has 1080p. I finally converted my system to be able to record at 4K, although I will never record at 4K. The problem with 4K is that if you do any text, it just becomes too small. You cannot. I'm unable to enlarge it in such a way that it looks good both on my screen and that it's readable on anybody else's. So I will never be using that. I may just at the end increase frame rates to 60 frames per second. Although for the videos that we do, 60 frames per second really doesn't, add any difference. And for the games, I play Minecraft.
Yeah, hardly high fidelity.
Every block is like this. So. No, I still haven't done it, and I will probably not do it because I usually don't stream for longer than 2 hours. But after the stream, I will add. This is here. But I will be also adding media control to this one, and this should go to this one. Sensors should go to the Home Assistant. Let me quickly add it.
What is that? I forget what that is now.
Sensor template for the color, temperature, and brightness.
I don't want to keep on dragging the length of the video on, but that's something that hopefully needed soon. So as part of ESPHome, right now, one of the problems is that you can't access attributes from an object inside Home Assistant. So we need to create these sensor templates. However, Frank himself is working on a fix for that in ESPHome. So, one of the creators of Home Assistant is now working on ESPHome in order to allow attributes. As soon as that's an option, I'll be able to rewrite the ESPHome YAML, and you won't need to add anything at all to Home Assistant. It will all be done in ESPHome. We're getting close to that. We're not quite there as of today, but hopefully within the next month or two, we should be able to get rid of the template sensors.
This is my recording setup, and I always have to find things here. Where are my templates here? But it's also possible that I don't have a single template here. Okay, I will quickly do that. New file. I'll copy the code. Okay, so this will be living room lights. Yeah, I have to pull the I have to pull this from. Okay. Just check here. Nope. Yeah. Alignment.
Oh yes, indentation.
Most common mistake.
Bane of.
Yeah, this should be it. If
It's an unfortunate step. I'm looking forward to not. We should be able to share these projects with each other with just the ESPHome YAML in the coming months, but just not quite there yet with the API integration with Home Assistant.
It should probably fast very. It should probably start very fast. Less than half an hour. 20 minutes maximum to restart. Just kidding.
Python program of indentation matters. Yeah, it's YAML is crucial for indentation, just like Python is crucial on indentation. I think Python's a bit more picky though. They care about tabs and spaces, whereas YAML, as long as it's the right indent, it's fine.
I mentioned a couple of times it already. I'm not a programmer, but I really wanted to find at least a way to contribute, if that can be considered contribution. And my contribution was to try to publish all of the configuration files I have in Home Assistant on my GitHub repository. And this is compilation of things that I found somewhere, so I'm not maybe the main contributor, but I did collect some, but other things I did write and edit there. And I started, it was a YAML lint, it's called, for the GitHub workflow actions, whatever. And it has strict verification for the YAML. And I spent at least 2 or 3 days verifying. There is no extra space at the end of the line. There is no more than 2 spaces between I don't know what. You cannot comment something and do not have space between it and things like. It was like 2 days of learning all the quirks you can have in YAML to have it, strict YAML.
Yeah.
Hey, Dustin.
It's yeah. And thank you, Dustin. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I didn't miss Johnny posting his Dustin's touchdown board. I still didn't make it, Dustin, and I promise I just have to solder 2 rows of headers, put it on the board. No, two rows of headers for the ESP or Node MCU, and 1 row for the LCD screen. That's it. That's all I need to do, and I just, yeah, I will leave this here. It's restarted. Okay, let's check what we have here now. If we go to areas, loft, let me see if it will change here. Where is it? I can do it here.
You're just having a look at this touchdown project. That's a proper project, like proper PCB and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just cheating, putting different common devices together. MIT license as well, online.
Where is it?
I commits much more than me as well. I don't have much green on my commit schedule.
That's the worst thing. I forced myself to have a couple of things always in the pipeline, to have at least 1 or 2 small commits, tweaks, fixes per week, because there is no worse thing than having old data. Oh, yep, it's working. When I change I change the brightness, it's working here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I will be definitely wrapping up. I have to wrap up or my family will kill me. They cannot watch TV until I'm live. So we are in open space, and if they turn on TV, you will not hear me. You will hear television. So yeah. Let me just close this here. So thank you very much really for joining. It was really fun. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being my first guest, and definitely thank you for this project. I really am looking forward to play a bit more with them. I will be using them. I'm still thinking of how I can complement it to my recording setup. I never have enough buttons and things available, so I will put this next to my stream deck and also Dustin's touch deck somewhere to have additional at least 10 buttons.
I say I have this one right next to my TV. I press it to pause, press and pause, and I have it for the volume. It is super useful rather than having to get a phone or your remote control out.
Oh, you remind me that my wife always controls one light with voice, and for some reason it fails 50% of the time. Maybe I will put it in a kitchen for her to be able to control it there. But I will not be using this. I will be using the Pixel one because I think she will like the dimmer and variation there. Oh, did you think of any specific uses for the Pixel ring? Because it can be one color, it can be multiple colors, if I'm not mistaken.
That is by far and away the best use I've got for it, because it pretty much mimics the Nest, blue going round to red and the purple area about 20 degrees in the middle. So I have electric heating in here, so I've just got my electric heater on a Shelly output, and I use the generic thermostat in Home Assistant, and it works an absolute treat with the NeoPixel ring. You just know what temperature it is from how much it lights up. So when it's at 12 o'clock, it's purple, 20 degrees. Put it up to maybe 24 degrees, which would be redder, and at about 3 o'clock, somewhere like that. It's all intuitive. It's a nice way of seeing data. Volume, I think I generally use a blue or a green. I just decide whatever color I want to use it, and then it's obviously just going around the ring from minimum to maximum.
I wouldn't call it.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see what Milan. Yes, yeah, and I'm very curious. So I know that Milan Korenica is working on a menu builder for the NeoPixel ring as well. Can't wait to see what he comes up with from that, because his screen stuff has been fantastic. I've loved watching him develop that.
I will definitely be playing with it. First I have to get everything here working as I want, then I will go to his, because as I said, he has better options for the menus, multiple options, scrolling up and down, and I'm too lazy to do it by hand in the ESPHome. Gonzalez, you ask, what is this? This is one of the future projects. This is the test board, not my project. It's a Russian Zigbee community. They do a lot of DIY Zigbee stuff. This is watering boards. I will be building it probably on stream, but later on this is my test one. I want to see if it's working, how it's working, and will it be doing what it was supposed to do. It should be able to hook up to Home Assistant, and then through Home Assistant you would be able to control watering for 3 individual plants. I also have from the same authors or teams of authors. They are really great guys. I will post a link, but it's a Russian site, so it can be translated via Google, and it's okay. Translation is, I know Russian, but that's different story. So yeah, you will be able to go through the website with the Google Translate. The second project I have from them is a Geiger-Miller counter. I did way back project where you have Geiger-Miller counter connected to the ESP board and then use ESPHome to pull data for the radiation and particles. But this one is Zigbee project, so this will be also one of the future videos. The latest board that arrived from them was the intercom upgrade. When you have flats and the intercom to open the door and talk with somebody, you can then also integrate that to Home Assistant. And the fourth, fifth, whatever project is the those small relay boards that have ESP01s on them, and you can then hook up the ESP01, control it also with the ESPHome. So the guys did Zigbee replacement for the ESP01, and you then see it once again in Home Assistant, so you can have Zigbee controllable relay board. I really love, because the guys are DIYers converting everything from the ESP boards to the Zigbee boards and then publishing it for the community, and they really are crazy guys.
Yeah, I'd be quite interested to have a play about with some of these small Zigbee boards for sure.
And by the way, I see
something for an.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on, Charles. I've seen Charles said something.
No,
so I wanted to answer.
Yeah. Yeah, building a greenhouse. Zigbee is nice, I would agree as well. I'm running
out of IP addresses, but the problem is not just the IP addresses. The problem is the Wi-Fi network, and I really do have all my main devices on the Ethernet, which is great because a lot more traffic can be pushed through it, and a lot more devices can talk in parallel. All the distribution of the talk between devices is different than the Wi-Fi. The problem is that all the ESP devices are wireless, even if I did extend my IP range for the devices, but the access points themselves are getting filled with the active devices, and it influences other devices that should get data. For example, if you have 150 devices on the Wi-Fi, you will have definitely problems with whatever you want to do on your mobile phone, streaming, download the applications or whatever. So that's why I really would like to get as much devices as I can to the Zigbee. And it's also nice because those devices are automatic, because they work with Zigbee to MQTT out of the box, or they made code for Zigbee to MQTT. Those devices are automatically also available inside Home Assistant. So for my project with ESPHome, I had to do a lot of coding to get the data interpreted, turned to the swens per hour or whatever it is called, and clicks per minute or whatever, to have it displayed in Home Assistant. And this one is, you just plug it in, flash it of course, plug it in, and it's automatically available there. Same with the watering, it's available as Valve. And by the way, sorry, Charles Pesor, fortunately he's not here at the stream. He's great guy. He made the Hydro project firmware for the Hydro boards from Lilgo, but he's currently finishing building his greenhouse, and he will be using much bigger devices. So this one is for the apartments, but he's doing greenhouse project, meaning controlling real valves, something with a lot more volume of or capacity of water passing through than this. Okay, so we definitely should wrap up. Sorry, I also took your time, 2.5 hours. I really am glad. I really am glad that I met you and that we had the chance to talk. And I really am glad that somebody pointed me towards this project. I will be posting more information about it and videos. I will do a normal video, not this one is too long to everything, but that will be a little bit later.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And thanks for backing the project. And anybody else in the comments who's already got one, and anybody else that wants one, hopefully before long the shop will be open too.
Thank you once again, and thanks everybody for the stream. Thanks for the great Kickstart project, and I will definitely be seeing you next time. And now I will be pressing Stream Deck button to end the stream. Bye bye everybody. See you next time. Bye once again.